That's Mark Gunther right there leading the horses on the wagon. His mom and dad, John and Emma, first came to Tennessee in 1965. They settled here in Muddy Pond, Tennessee, where they started producing sorghum cane and making sorghum in the fall. Over the past 50 years, they've become quite well known for their sorghum operation. But we're going to follow them throughout the year, and you're going to learn their story and hear how they was raised up, old order Mennonites, and what it was like as a teenager growing up here on the farm. Come along on a wagon ride and meet the Gunthers of Muddy Pond.
I should have brought a few more, but... You gonna say hey? This is his favorite part. You've been waiting for the hay ride all day, right? He's asked me, how long? How many minutes?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm John. Talked to you on the phone, Mark.
Yeah.
Been watching some of your videos while you've been down in Florida there.
Have you?
Looks like you got away from this cold weather for a few weeks.
It was nice down there, yeah. It was nice, yeah.
So you getting ready to take everybody on a ride?
Anybody wants to pile on?
Well, I guess I'll get on there and go with
Pile
y'all.
on too?
I'm gonna go with y'all.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about these horses. Those are some big horses.
Okay, well, the one on the other side, the one on the other side here is Fauna. She is 11 years old, the mother to Frida, who is coming up 4 years old. Fauna actually is pregnant. Frida is not pregnant. Belgian horses that have been in our family since 1982. Dad bought her grandmother from up north in Indiana back in 1982, and just been a very docile family of horses. And so now then we actually have a 1-year-old daughter out of Frida, and plan to keep raising that family of horses.
Well, it's a good tradition going on there.
Yep. Dad was very fond of Belgian horses. He liked Belgian horses. He didn't like Percherons or Clydesdales. He was fond of Belgian, and I guess that I got a good dose of it. I enjoy working them.
Hey, how are you? So good to see you. He's on the horse.
I bet you there ain't. Judy, would you say there's half of us here? There's not even half of us here, are
No,
there?
your kids aren't here.
I
There's a
mean,
whole ton of people.
there's a bunch of us in this.
My children aren't here either.
So where can I get at in here?
You want to get off on front?
Yeah, why don't you sit up? You sit up here.
Okay.
All right, all aboard.
Yeah, I didn't bring mine.
Go ahead and get ready to break. I'm going to change sides with you, Jake. Jake, get up and handle the brake. You'll need to stand up so you can apply pressure. We got a lot of weight on your apply pressure. So back in the days when I and my brothers and our only sister were growing up, we rarely did this, but we did this every day as a means of transportation. We didn't do it for a Sunday afternoon pleasure ride. This was our only way of transportation. Hitch up the wagon and go visit some of the other families, neighbors. But now that's we don't use the horses anymore for a means of using them for agriculture or for working them in the fields. I mean, I do a little bit because they need to be worked to keep them in good behavior, and then occasionally take a Sunday afternoon ride. But it's not done nearly like it was when we were growing up. Turn right here. Easy, girls. Come around here, ye. Come around here, ye. Come around here, ye. Easy, girls. Easy, girls. So I am guiding these horses with the lines, but it always helps to talk to horses. Like, both of those signals mean forward, mean go. Whoa means stop, but using both of them makes them obey better. Ye means to turn to the right, ha means to turn to the left. So you'll hear me talking to the horses, and when I talk to them and then start pulling on the lines, they just respond better by talking to them and steering them. young growing up, my grandma and grandpa lived right here, and we called this the sand road. There was not nearly cars and trucks around like there are today, and the road held up good. It was just a solid bed of sand. And I remember us riding here to my grandma and grandpa, and then the other grandparents lived right there close to the cemetery where we're going, and we would love to ride on this section of sand road. And if anybody did fall off, that fall on the sand road wasn't nearly as bad. Yeah. Come on.
What year was that, Dad?
Well, it was when we were little growing up.
So your great-grandparents lived here too?
Yes.
Okay.
On Mom's side. This is where they lived, on Mom's side. And then when they got a little older and couldn't farm anymore, Dad bought their farm, bought the whole farm and joined it together with his, and gave them a lifetime right to live here. And they did. They lived here for till they died. And then one of our brothers, Leonard, bought it from Dad, and Leonard decided not to live here anymore, and now brother Ben owns it. But it stayed in the family. Easy, girl. And this was Grandpa Maslin's old barn here. He milked his cows. And, yeah. Easy, girl. He's holding the brakes. So right over here on the left, where the little white car is sitting, there's still the little building there. That was my grandparents' greenhouse. The house was right on the other side of that greenhouse, and the barn was over just to the right of that willow tree that's greening up there. But that's where my dad's parents lived. So, you know, we were all pretty close here, and we could travel back and forth with horses, and either on bareback or horses and wagon. And grandparents were getting older, and we had to help them with a lot of farming, hauled a lot of manure. Brother Pete and I hauled a lot of manure for them and worked their fields. But right here's where they lived. Since then, well, unfortunately, we allowed this farm to be sold out of the family, and then it's been sold several times. In the meantime, the original barn and house ended up burning. Well, maybe the barn got bulldozed, I'm not sure, but regretfully, we let that slip out of the family. It just didn't seem like we needed it or could afford it at the time, and we let it slip out of the family. I think it sold for $49,000. It's probably worth $300,000 or $400,000 now.
What's the name of the road we're on here?
We are actually on Habegger Loop here. So further on down this hill, we probably won't drive down there today, but there's some other dwellings down there. The Habegger family lived there. So there was like 3 brothers that lived. One of them lived at this barn, and the other one lived where you can barely see the building way over there, and another one to the left. And ended up the road, when 911 came through, the road got the name of Habegger Loop. It actually loops all the way around, goes back to the main road. And those folks all moved to I guess when we jumped the fence and became worldly, they decided to move to a plainer group of people, which was at Scottsville, Kentucky. So that's where they're all living now. Well, the older people, they've all passed away, but yeah. All right, we'll ease on down to the cemetery. Easy. Come on. So from where we started the wagon ride where Mom and Dad live now, that farm continues all the way down to here. It's all one piece of land. This is where Mom and Dad started in 1965. They built a little house which also burned. You can see remnants of an old barn there, but they built that house there in February and the first part of March in 1965. Moved in it and had lived there 2 weeks when I was born, right down here. And Mom and Dad lived at that place there till who was baby? Leonard was a baby. Leonard was a baby in the fall of 1971. They moved up to where we just left now, but this is where our family has been. And while they were down here, so I was born here, my sister Judy, I thought she was on the way. Sister Judy was born here. Pete was born right down here. Benny and Leonard were born here. So 4 of us oldest ones were born right down here. But that farm is connected all the way up to where we were. Now, one of the other brothers, Ben, owns all that now. But Dad set it up that it couldn't be sold out of the family. So it's going to stay in the family. So this is the little cemetery where Mom and Dad are buried. Both grandparents on both sides are buried here. Several aunts and uncles. Yeah. The cemetery actually was started in the late 1800s and was just a small cemetery here called Weeks Cemetery. You do not have to own a plot to be buried here. We, the community, take care of the cemetery. There is a couple of directors that you have to ask permission to be buried here, but called Weeks Cemetery, and just our little community cemetery here. Around here, Fauna, around here, The tombstone right here with the little bouquet of flowers on it, that's where Mom and Dad are. Dad actually put that tombstone there himself. Mom's death date's not been put in it yet. And just to the right of the tree there was Mom's sister that died of a young age from cancer. Behind it were Mom's parents and many other relatives. So just a little knob right here out in the middle, and sort of a neat place, I guess, for a cemetery, and that's where it was chosen. And way in the back there you can see where the field stones are tipped against each other, and if you spend enough time and clean the writing that's on them, you can read them. It was in the late 1800s. A large land grant was granted to a Weeks family from the U.S. government, and they got several thousand acres here in the area. But those were the folks that got that and started this cemetery here. And of course, after that, their heirs, it all got divided up. But in 1965, when Mom and Dad and that group of people moved here, they bought 700 acres for $27 an acre here in all this area, which goes all the way up to where Mom and Dad lived. And of course, it got divided up, and yeah. Today, do a lot of it. It'll be all right. Yeehaw means you're having fun. All right, whoa, girls. Take yourself a little rest. Boy, we've sweatered them up, lathered a little bit. I was talking about
He's at home, James.
We'll give them a little rest. If anybody wants to go again, we'll go again.
Okay, got it? There's Mama.
Did you like that, Beth?
Jonah's gonna lead out.
Okay, let's sing.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
Dig in.
To the food.
Oh, really?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Two horse is by,
Yeah.
and there's Merle.
Oh, there is
Would this have been a time when we had the whole school together?
It's a little longer, a little later than what I'd like to, but she missed the cycle there, or didn't conceive.
oldest daughter, Charlotte.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Charlotte.
Charlotte?
And we have Andrea's at home. She's 16. And then Isaac is 19. And then Lana is our youngest. She's running around here somewhere. So we have 3 girls and 1 boy.
Okay, I have an Isaac too.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he got
Charlie's got a whole bunch of
honor roll. That's sweet. For spelling and stickers. So these are old school yearbooks for my grandma's school when she taught at the little schoolhouse. And this was some of Davy's work. And just a record of their days. A list of visitors who visited the school in 1987. And this is Marie Guenther. That would be my great grandmother. 1987.
And I'll make this part.
When we were just talking about that, we're going to do it, I guess, Thursday and Friday.
The second and the third. You remember?
Yes, will that work for you?
I can do the second, but barely the third.
Supposed to be rainy weather. It'd be a good time to do that. So
I have a closing at 10, but I really get started.
it won't be 2 full days because it's just 1 hog, but 2 good partial days. Yeah.
I've been trying to tell her that. Thank you, guys.
He's been giving me a hard time about this for a long time.
Supper was served.
I use them interchangeably, but lunch is definitely I do breakfast, lunch, everything here, but I mean,
There's the mark.
So the water came from where? They had running water at the time?
They did, yeah. And before they had running water, they had
There was
A well.
a well out there. that-
So,
hand pump.
so even with running water, they still kept the.
So this was just a
Drinking bucket.
You fill up the bucket from the well and set it in here, and you get your dip out.
and everybody drank out of it. You didn't get your own separate cup
Worried
or
about
germs
things like
or
COVID or anything like that.
right.
So when you came in, you just got your drink of water.
Yep.
Really good immune systems they do.
So up to how long ago has that been used like that? When was the last time it was used with water in it?
It's been many years.
Many years.
Eddie and I got married in 1998, and we lived here for a little while. We eloped when we got married. I was 17, and Eddie's parents just told us to come live with them because we didn't have anywhere to go. So they were still drinking out of that bucket when we moved in here. So
98.
yeah, 98.
and I think it carried on for a few years after
Yeah.
that, because I definitely
You're
remember
Yeah.
some of my
was
younger
always so
siblings
grossed
having
out.
memories of it too.
Hey, this is Holly. I'm here again in my grandma's house in Muddy Pond, Tennessee. And today I'm with some of my family members. I'm with my husband, Nathan, and my dad, Mark, and his wife, Sherry, and some of my uncles and my aunts. This is Ben, and Eddie, and Ruth, and my sister, Heather, and my uncle, Jonah, my aunt, Judy, and my aunt, Doreen. So they're going to tell us a little bit about our family history and where we came from. And so we're going to start with my dad. And he's going to tell about how my grandparents came here and just a little bit of their history.
So Dad's family, his parents and Dad, they came from Saskatchewan, Canada, and this was quite a different world for them. And Mom's family came from Bern, Indiana. Both sides of the family were pretty much strictly horse and buggy. They were very plain. Dad's family was involved in some type of a Mennonite group in Canada, and came here to. Dad's family moved to Pennsylvania in 1961, I believe it was, and there's where he met my mother and her family. And they had came originally from Bern, Indiana, but also lived in Pennsylvania at that time. And Mom and Dad got married in Pennsylvania. And wasn't long after they got married, there was church trouble, and a bunch of them got expelled. And so along with Mom's parents and Dad's parents, there was a search sent out and found land here in Tennessee, here in Muddy Pond, Tennessee. And in 1965, in January of 1965, moved here to Tennessee. And were 100% completely horse and buggy. The only thing that the church did allow us to have, we had chainsaws to clear the land, and allowed other people to come, other farmers to come in with a tractor and hay baler to to bale our hay. We were allowed to hire someone with a bulldozer to clear land, to dig ponds, things like that. Otherwise, we were 100% strictly horse and buggy. And so Mom and Dad belonged to this church, and things went fairly smooth for a number of years. But in the late 70s, early 1980, I guess it was, there was some issues that came up with baptism, the use of the chainsaw. There was others that felt like we should not be allowed to have that. Mom and Dad and I guess 2 other families didn't agree with everything that was being forced on them. And long story short, Mom and Dad ended up expelled out of that church. And of course, I was 16 years old in 1981 when they got expelled, and I guess maybe I had too much rebellious influence on my younger siblings, and I wanted more than the chainsaw. I didn't just want the chainsaw. But anyway, it spiraled away from strictly horse and buggy. Mom and Dad did drag their feet for a long time and did not really want to go along with it. But Dad did give in. He went along with it. Mom never gave in.
You're talking about he gave in on the modernization of
Dad
things.
gave in on the modernization. Mom never gave in on the modernization. And we just completely, us children, we completely left that conservative horse and buggy way of life. But I will say, in my life, me being the oldest, at that time when I was a teenager, I did want to get away from it. I wanted the more convenient, easy things of the world, and I do enjoy those today. But I really enjoy working the horses and that old way of life. I like a foot in both worlds. I love doing it. It is hard to be economical and make a living with horses and mules, the old-fashioned way. But if you can, it is a wonderful way of life.
Now, did you grow up in this house right here, Mark?
For the most part. Earlier we took on the wagon ride and showed you where we lived. I lived there till I was 6 years old, and the rest of the time I lived right here. Yes, this was home sweet home.
So this house just got electricity in what year?
I would say maybe the late 80s. Some of my younger brothers forced it in.
So even after your mom and dad was expelled from the church, they still stuck with the old ways?
They did, because they I guess they felt like, maybe they were giving in to sin by going away from those old ways that they had lived all their life. They had lived those old ways all their life, and it is so, once you give in, then it's the next thing, and it's the next thing, and that was the things they were dragging their feet about.
So little by little, we saw a phone come in. One of your brothers, who was the cause of the phone coming?
Little by little, saw the phone come in. I guess the first thing that was, a couple of the younger brothers, Pete and Ben. This is Ben sitting here beside me. They went and applied for the phone, and Mom and Dad would not allow that phone to come in the house. But they finally gave them permission that they could put it on the side porch or out in the shop. And Brother Pete, who is not here, actually, as I remember correctly, put that phone in his name.
Now, what did you think about that? How old were you Ben when the phone came in? Teenager?
Teenager, yeah.
So what?
Just a lot of changes, as Mark has already stated so well, that took place. I think probably one of the funniest stories out of seeing the things change that comes to my mind is Pete getting himself a four-wheeler, and that was an absolute. That was going to take us right straight to hell, according to my parents. And but you know what? Pete kept that thing hidden back here in this barn through the woods until Dad discovered it. And the funny thing about it is Dad took a few rides on that four-wheeler. It wasn't long and he owned one himself.
I want to go back and say a little more about that. All of us struggled with Mom and Dad because they were holding back and we were going forward. But one of the things that I value the most from it all is in the end, none of us turned against mom and dad because of it. We admire, today all of us admire what they taught us.
We're very, very thankful. The older I get, the more thankful I am for the values that mom and dad taught us, no matter whether we agree with their scriptural references to it. It's just the values that they taught us that I hold on very dearly. I think it's...
Work ethic was just tremendous. You know, you didn't quit till it was done. You cleaned up what needed to be, and you didn't waste nothing. You know, that's, in today's world, that's invaluable, you know. Yeah.
Our parents taught us how to get somewhere in life. And I just remember one very vivid memory where mother had supper almost ready, and dad goes out the driveway, and it was almost dark. And she's like, "Oh, where's he going now?" And she got ready, had supper ready, and dad was back in due time, and we're eating supper, but mom is just storming mad at him. It was obvious. And so finally she just blurted out while we were eating supper, like, "Where did you have to run off to?" And I never will forget, he looked up off of his bowl of soup and says, "Why, in that time I cut and split a whole rick of firewood." And you know something? That kind of a thing stuck with me. And our parents taught us a way of life that very few people get to reap to this day. And I think the word that comes to mind more than anything is that teach and preach to all people, and whenever needed, use words. And that's the way our parents were. They didn't use words a lot. We just learned from them by watching them.
So you's
Not watching so much as going along with it.
Going along with
Being
it.
dragged along and told to do it.
so you're the second oldest one. You're Judy, right?
I am.
And so what was it like as a child? When did do you remember watching a TV for the first time? How old were you?
Oh my goodness.
Probably at the Phillipses and the neighbors here. Maybe.
Yeah, occasionally we have some neighbors that still live here. If we went to the neighbors to use the phone, most of the time their TV was on and we'd see it there. But I don't remember much about that. I hadn't even thought about that, you know. But yeah, that's the only exposure we had to TV.
So your mom and dad never did get a TV here in this house?
No.
No way.
No way.
How about a radio?
Well,
Dad probably
would
had
listen
one
to
head
tapes.
somewhere.
He had a CD player.
He had a
So
CD
he would
player.
have headphones.
In the later years, not until
Right.
in the later years.
He would listen to gospel music on a CD player.
First, it was a cassette player.
He was still very respectful of the fact that Grandma didn't want it broadcasted in the house, so he would listen to it on his own time, more or less, you know.
Now, did it make a difference it being operated on batteries or?
That battery was the only way they could operate because they didn't have electricity in the earlier days.
Okay, so you was talking, Jonah, about your dad finding the antenna. Tell about the truck story about how you didn't like before you listened to the radio on the truck.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dad didn't, and Mom as well. They didn't want us to have the influence of ungodly music, and they considered country music to be off limits. And well, that's what us young boys wanted to listen to. And I remember Leonard. We were hauling water. It was the summer of 1988. It was really dry and hot, and so we were hauling water in the back of that truck to try to preserve one. Was it an acre of cane? I think it was.
Had a tank in there,
We had a tank in the back of the truck, and of course, Dad took the antenna out of the truck so the radio wouldn't pick up. And Leonard had found a way around that. He got a coat hanger and stretched it out and made it a piece of wire and just stuck it into the antenna slot, which it would pick up pretty good. And Dad happened up on us, and we didn't expect it. And he walked up to the truck and jerked that thing out of the socket and whacked it across the hood of the truck and says, "Why you boys have this VIP in here?" And
again.
But or said again. But we were, and I look back, and as a dad now, I get Dad's heart in his wanting to preserve us from wicked influences and so forth. He was concerned for us. So I remember other times, music wanting to come into the house. I remember as a little boy laying in my bedroom, could just barely hear the Pete trying to learn to play harmonica in the other room, quietly, so mom and dad couldn't hear it, but he was trying to learn how to play the harmonica, after bedtime.
So harmonica wasn't allowed?
No.
No, I got a couple of them smashed from mom. Yeah, she found them and smashed them.
But now, Jonah, now you're pretty good at harmonica. You play pretty well.
I could tap out a tune on one.
I haven't heard you play harmonica in forever.
Pete learned to play it real well too.
Uncle Jonah can play the dulcimer too.
I don't know that. All of us here are instrumental. Our whole family are musically inclined. Even our sewing machine's a singer.
Oh my word! Well, they say Honda cars were biblical too. They say all the disciples came together in one accord.
So now,
Nathan,
you kind of married into the family. What did you think about the Gunther family when you first met them? Did you know them growing up, or?
I didn't know them growing up, but I've been around these parts, my whole life, and they didn't live a whole lot different than my great grandparents did. Well, when I was growing up, my great grandparents, they didn't have running water. Electricity probably come just before I was born, so it wasn't a big change for me. And I don't know, when we met and meeting all these, they just seemed like family to me. We had same values, same work ethic, and it's not really common these days, to be honest with you.
So one of the things I find that you brought from your mom and dad, although they're not in a Mennonite church, you kept that traditional way of lifestyle of hard work and family, getting together. I noticed that we're here today on a Sunday, and you all do this quite often. Get together here at your mom and dad's house, and
It is a bit amazing, I hear them a lot of times. Older people die and go on, and families just get rid of everything, and just disperse of it. And here we are, we're still getting together here, and I would have to think that mom and dad would both be proud of us that we're still right here where they were, as if though they were here.
The only thing that's changed here is they're not here anymore, but everything else is. Holly has done just a wonderful job in preserving the home place here, and she's running the store for us. And yeah, as Mark said, I think they'd be proud of us because nothing has changed. We haven't sold anything. We haven't dispersed of anything. The only thing that happens when we come here is mom and dad ain't here. But we are determined as a family, at least ways for my part, is for us to continue to get together and stay in touch with one another, love one another. I mean, if you don't have your family, what do you have?
that's one of the things I saw that y'all have a good, strong family ties still. I think all the siblings still live here in Muddy Pond except one
Leonard.
Yes. Leonard. And then we got Doreen. We talked to you last time. You married into the family, so
Yes, I did.
you still practice the Mennonite faith, I guess, as far as church and all of that.
Yeah, pretty closely. I don't go to a Mennonite church. I go to a fellowship church, but I do have strong Mennonite background, so I still count myself as a Mennonite.
So,
Everything, although a lot of people might not in the area, but anyway, I do.
So,
And I come from Canada too, so I'm a little bit
okay.
different.
So what year did you come to the United States?
I came in 1991.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the Gunther family down here?
Oh, I love the family.
Yeah.
Great family. I'm very fortunate to be a part of the family. Yeah.
Yeah. And then your daughter Michelle, she's part of the bakery and that you all do. And
She does a big part of the baking here. She's our main baker. I think. She does a lot.
I think that title is somewhat disputed as everybody does their part, and it's all a lot of hard work, but I enjoy being a part of it, and it's a special thing to be able to carry on. Grandma did that for 50, 60 years, and her mother before her as a way of bringing in money to help support the family, and You know, she had people that would come from Nashville and Knoxville that knew her specifically and came for her bread and her cookies and things. So I think that's a special thing to be part of carrying on.
I've talked about this with Holly before about that every Mennonite community is a little bit different. Some's a little bit more lenient. Some still old order. They all vary from, so you're not necessarily in the Mennonite church, but you still carry on the Mennonite traditions and ways and
Values.
and the
More,
values.
I would say more the values, yes.
Yeah.
The culture as well.
The culture.
Culture is a very big part of Mennonite faith.
But the modernization, you was a big part of that. I've seen some other videos where you've talked about that as far as the sorghum mill. You wanted to be able to produce more sorghum, and you had to use tractors and there maybe a few different things. What all did you do that maybe your parents struggled with you on a little bit?
Well, you know, as we grew up, we made sorghum, and it was all horse-drawn. We had horse-drawn mills, and you know, I rebelled that some. It was just so much hard work, and I used to, when I was young, and I still have the ability to do a lot of daydreaming, you know, and think about things and dream up a lot of stuff. And anyway, I had this in mind that I wanted to build modernized equipment to be able to harvest this cane and produce and process more of it. And I think without having been able to do that, Mom and Dad wouldn't have been able to sustain the sorghum making, and none of us certainly couldn't be a part of it anymore, because there was just absolutely no way that you can by hand cut and haul in enough cane, press the juice out of it with horses, cook it down, and even think about making a living at it. And so was blessed with knowledge to dream up equipment, and my brothers helped me with it. We built it, and we've kept a great business going with it, and Mom and Dad were proud of that.
Do you still use your horses, though, to cultivate with? Or?
Yes, I do. So I do quite a bit of farming with the horses and the mules, and the main reason that I do that is my wife Sherry and I do travel and do sorghum making demonstrations. And so horses and mules, you can't just have them out in the pasture and not do anything with them and then expect them to behave when you go out in the public or go anywhere. You have to work them. They have to be worked. And so, again, as I said earlier, I love a foot in both worlds. And so this has made a way for me to be able to work these horses and mules and be able to sustain ourselves by doing these demonstrations and get compensation for that and sell our product. And so yeah, I do work them quite a bit. Yeah.
How did that start out? You doing the demonstrations? How long have y'all been doing that? Like in Cage Cove in Florida and places.
So in 1985, there was a museum, and a lot of people might know about it. It was the Museum of Appalachia near Norris, Tennessee, which is 20 miles north of Knoxville. Contacted us, and Dad and I went there and discussed. He wanted us to come to their fall homecoming and do a sorghum making demonstration. I thought that was absolutely the craziest thing that I'd ever heard of. I'm like, it's so difficult at home on the farm that there is no way that you can move equipment somewhere else and do it. But by the time John Rice Irwin, who was the owner of that museum, got through talking and offered compensation for it, I decided to give it a try. It has been the best thing I've ever done. I absolutely love it. I love doing these demonstrations because of the people that you meet that come from far and wide, from everywhere. We have a great thing going on here at home on the farm, but these people will not come to our farm. We'll never meet up with them here. And so this has opened the door for us to get out and meet so many people. We get compensated for it. We sell our product, a lot of product, and it's done very well for us.
Somebody needs to mention too that I think all the siblings here speak Low Dutch, German. What, I don't know which was it. Low German? Is it what it's called?
Well,
They do more than one language.
take it up a notch. Everybody can yodel.
And I don't like it when they speak it, and they're all together and speaking it. I feel like they're talking about me.
and we never are. And we never are.
Well, I noticed that you all have, especially Mark, has a little bit of that accent still, probably from your ancestors, your mom and dad and grandparents. Probably picked that up growing up as a kid.
And so I do have that. I do have that accent, and I wish I didn't have that accent because we live here in Tennessee, and I don't need that accent here. But like I said in the beginning of this, Dad in particular, his family came from Saskatchewan, Canada, and they speak a language called Low German. And my mother's side of the family speaks a language called Swiss. And then because of the Mennonite group that they were with, they didn't speak either language. They didn't speak Swiss or Low German. They speak a concocted language that's called Pennsylvania Dutch. It's sort of a cross between all of it. And so we all learn to speak all those languages, fluently speak at least 3 of those different dialects of German. But that's the reason that I have that deep accent and that choppiness, and really don't fit in the South here like I'd like to, but I can't get rid of it.
So growing up as a family, did you all speak the Pennsylvania Dutch among each other?
The mother tongue would have been Swiss.
Yes, Swiss. Our mother tongue
in the household, we would have spoke Swiss.
Yes, mom's language was Swiss, and she, for some reason, got Dad to speak Swiss, and he tried to speak it. It wasn't 100%, but
Dad had his own language.
Dad had his own.
We could understand him.
But yes, we all spoke that Swiss German dialect. I couldn't speak any English. Never heard of the English language until I was 6 years old. Went to the first grade.
Oh, really?
Yes, and but we rarely speak it. Some of us brothers do a little bit, but we almost all married English partners, and for the most part we speak English amongst each other, but we can speak it.
But Swiss would be our mother tongue. That is what we communicated as growing up.
Mm-hmm. So some of you, 3 of the brothers are still in the sorghum business?
Yes.
And then the rest of you are done working in the...
different things. I have a barn moving business. Eddie is in the sorghum.
Eddie's a partner in the sorghum, and Brother Pete is a partner in sorghum that's not here.
And then you, Joni, you build buildings there.
Yeah, the portable storage buildings.
So we talked earlier about coming and seeing some of that veterans building one day. So that'd be good.
And then Judy would be a dispatcher for the company.
I work for Old Hickory Buildings as well. Yeah, same with them. We're all kind of connected that way.
So that's just right down the road here on the left.
And I also have a trucking company, and Holly's husband Nathan works for me.
Mm-hmm. So I think, long story in short, we do all kinds of things, but the sorghum is the big glue on the family business that the 3 brothers.
It's a sticky business.
And they're
it's a sticky business.
It's a sticky business.
And a lot of the grandchildren work at the sorghum mill and help with all of that. And I mean, a lot of them don't. There's my brother Brian, he's not here. He hauls barns as well. And my sister Heather does real estate, and just everybody.
Heather's my oldest daughter, and Holly's the youngest one. Brian's between them, and then have a stepdaughter named Ashley.
But now I think about all the grandkids have either worked at the store or worked in the sorghum at some point.
Heather used to run the store or help Grandma with managing it. That's my sister. Heather did. But I think about everybody, all the ladies have worked in the store at one point or another.
So Doreen, I know Doreen does some extra stuff. You sell some of the jugs that the sorghum goes into. You wholesale those?
Yes, we do. Pete and I have a business where we are distributors for the plastic containers that we use in our sorghum business. And then we distribute to people that make sugarcane syrup and of course to other sorghum makers. So yeah, we do that too.
So I've noticed some of the Mennonites, they seem to be able to use technology more if it's business related to deal with their business. Does that seem right? Am I on the right track? Do you?
Yeah, we use technology.
Because you have to have that to sell online and
I suppose. Yeah, everybody's different. we've had a computer for a long time. You know, before we even had the business, we had a computer. So I mean, yeah, Pete and I didn't have a problem with technology like we used.
How about television? Do y'all have television at home?
No, we don't have a television.
No
We never
television?
had a TV.
So Michelle, you didn't grow up with a television?
Correct. Yeah.
How old was you when you finally got a television then? Once you
I
got
guess
married?
once when I left home.
Left home,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's interesting learning the different history and traditions and how things work, and we're looking forward to coming at least once a month and filming the different things that's going on here that you do throughout the year. I know there've been a lot of videos made of the sorghum make them in the fall, but really not a lot so much of what goes on day to day, you know, of everything. So we're hoping to document you all throughout the rest of the year, all the way up till fall. And then you just got back from Florida. You've been down there doing a demonstration for a couple weeks.
So for over 30 years, I've been doing these sorghum making demonstrations. And 2 years ago, the Florida State Fair saw us doing a sorghum making demonstration, and they said they'd like for us to come to Florida and do sugarcane making syrup, a demonstration of it. And so we got together and made a deal, and we went last year and now again this year, and just really enjoy it. The sugar cane is quite a bit different than sorghum cane, but it works very similar, and really enjoy it. Yeah, it's 700 miles down to Tampa, Florida, where the demonstration was, but we loaded the mules up and took off and went down there and did it.
Who takes care of your animals and
Yes.
when you're gone?
And
You have so many
so I
cows
have this wonderful niece named Charlotte, who is Eddie's daughter. When we go, whether it's on a cruise or whether we go do a sorghum or sugarcane making demonstration, Charlotte takes care of my animals. I have around 140, 150 head of cattle and those horses and mules, and so that's a big load on Charlotte. She does a good job taking care of my stuff.
Well, I think we've got a good introduction to the family, and people will get a little bit of understanding about the tradition, and that you all come from a very traditional Mennonite family, but y'all have kind of a little bit of yous of little by little modernized, and that makes you not eligible to be in the church, I guess. I guess some of the churches are more...
Yeah, we're not eligible to be in the church, no. In that Mennonite church, yeah. There's been some expelling going on as went on, yes.
Why don't you all speak a little bit of that Swiss before he shuts it off?
That's a good idea.
No.
Das würde mir schwätzen eigentlich.
Well, tell me, one thing I do have a question about is about the song, the prayer song that y'all sung. Is that a traditional...
Doxology.
Singing is a big part of the Mennonite faith.
Yeah.
There's a lot of singing that happens. It's a very healthy part of the religious life.
But the doxology is not a Mennonite hymn. It's a traditional hymn. I'd have to look it up to see who wrote it even, but it's, a very old hymn.
Okay.
But we have sang in German, like we sang at my grandmother's funeral service, a German song.
What is
God is die Liebe. God is love.
So,
I think singing in general is just the traditional, it's the traditional
Way of
Mennonite.
There's one thing I could throw to that, is that we did not do a lot of singing in our home. Mother had a personal belief about singing that 4-part harmony was fleshly. It was, didn't honor God. You should only sing the melody part. And I look back on it as feeling a little lost from that, because I feel like us as a family, we have singing voices, but because of that, we never got to explore that part of singing 4-part harmony. I think we craved that, and we craved music, which would lead to, why we wanted to further that, like Pete trying to learn to play the harmonica, secretly and so forth.
But I think that came from their heritage, they were just ingrained that.
Like that type of singing is old. Like that's the kind of singing they did back in the Reformation and time. Like that's a very old way of singing. So I don't even know. I've thought about looking up when 4-part harmony, when people started to do that. I've wondered, when that started. But that type of singing is only done by the Amish anymore. I think, really.
And the traditional Old Order Mennonite,
Mennonites, yeah.
Well, I think we've had a good meeting, and I really appreciate y'all letting me come out and learn a little bit about y'all's history and family.
All right, we'll
Sorry
do more.
that you had to miss my brother Pete. Pete would be the second son. He's right about next behind Judy. He's
Doreen's husband.
And he's single-handedly the best storyteller of all of us.
And
He's
but a little camera shot.
He's probably not here because he's got one lens missing. He's having LASIK surgery, so he's got one.
Little camera shot.
Okay, well, we'll maybe we'll get him in on another video.
We'll catch him by surprise the next time. That's the best way to do it. Then he's got no way out.
Pete, hands down, is the life of the party.
We didn't need a TV when we had Pete
Whenever
around.
Pete's here, it's interesting.
So yeah, you was talking about the older brothers bringing in some cassette tapes for y'all to listen to, sneak them in.
Yeah, I remember Leonard bringing in, I think it was Leonard, or I'm not sure which one, brought in some comedy tapes about Ernest and Elwood, some just hilarious stories, it was right down our alley, and we'd laugh. Yeah.
Well,
This family did not have TV or any of the modern day entertainment, so we learned how to entertain ourselves, and that is one thing that I miss a lot, and that's one of the reasons I love getting together with family here on Sunday afternoons, is because there's no TV, we entertain each other, and I love that. I think that's great.